Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to my hobby blog. I'm very excited to be doing a video today because I'm talking about Gene Wolfe's amazing series, The Wizard and the Knight, or it's called The Wizard Knight, but the books are The Knight and then The Wizard, or The Knight and the Wizard. Sorry, it's very complicated why it's called that, but I'm a huge fan of Gene Wolfe, and I think he is one of my favorite authors ever. And I even have multiple copies of my favorite series book, The New Sun. And I want to mostly do non-spoilers, because spoilers-wise, I don't really have too many thoughts, because this is as confusing as Book of the New Sun was. It's a little easier to follow what's going on. I think this is a better introduction to Gene Wolfe, but I still think it's a very complex story, because there are 7 layers of the world, and our characters travel to and from these different layers, and time moves differently in these layers. And so when you're like in an hour in one layer, 20 years passes in the layer above it. And so it's very complicated. We have a singular POV, just like Book of the New Sun, by the name of Abel, who is someone from Earth, from America, who gets transported to this fantasy world. And is sort of, this entire series is written sort of as someone looking back on his adventures and writing a letter to his brother in America, because we have a lot of kind of moments where the character cannot really remember who he was before entering this fantasy world, because he has been living in this world for so long. And the main sort of story of this book is all about Abel becoming a knight, someone who wants to be very honorable, who wants to help people. And Gene Wolfe expertly explores this. And I really love that angle of the story. And personally, I think book 1 is a much better book, I feel like, than book 2, because book 1 is all about him proving himself to become a knight. And we have a lot of characters and enemies and monsters that come in, sort of in and out of the story. And he has a lot of really cool, fantastical encounters with these different characters. And I really love that. I love everything in book 1. I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. But book 2, I feel like, really sort of dropped the ball in the promises that the author set up in book 1. Because by the end of book 1, he sort of accomplishes his mission, but now has to sort of prove to everyone else in the world that he is a knight, because no one believes him, because he is so young. He's like 15, I think, or 14 when the story begins. But one of the characters ages him up early in book 1, so that he kind of looks like an 18-year-old. And so we have a lot of sort of confusing sort of things going on in book 2, where we're just sort of following him being a knight. And the wizard, I feel like, is a little bit of a, not really a delusion, but a distraction. Like, he doesn't really become a wizard either, because he doesn't really use any magic. He has magical swords, he has a magical sort of items throughout the story, but he doesn't really use any magic. And we don't really see many magic users in this book series, which kind of made me a little mad about that, because the story is called The Wizard Knight, so I assumed that the knight was going to also be a wizard, but it's not. But Gene Wolfe is also playing with a lot of tropes and fantasy in this series. This was written in 2004, I believe. So quite a few decades after Book The New Sun. And I think this is a really great starting point for anyone who wants to get into Gene Wolfe. I started with Book The New Sun. I thought that was fantastic. I love it. It's my favorite series ever. But I really feel like people who aren't as sort of wanting to jump into the deep end as Book The New Sun should read The Wizard Knight, because the main character is a very explored and interesting character. I loved following him. I love the world. I love the settings. I also love all the different characters that he meets, although Gene Wolfe doesn't really explore them as much as he does in Book The New Sun when it comes to the side characters. We don't really have a lot of nuance when it comes to these characters. A lot of them are just loyal to a fault all the way to the end, and only a few of them betray our main character, but is sort of treated as like oh, I knew you were going to do this to me, so I kept you close. I kept my enemies close. And I just was not interested in what was going on in book 2. And I really wanted sort of more of that weird Book the New Sun kind of material, sort of him going to space, not the Wizard Knight, but in the main character's journey of Book the New Sun, Severian. He goes on this really fantastic odyssey, which Abel does in book 1, but he doesn't do that in book 2. And I was very disappointed by that, because book 1 is easily one of my favorites when you don't sort of factor in Book the New Sun. Like, this was a fantastic book 1 of a series, but book 2, I feel like it feels like Gene Wolfe had an amazing idea and sort of had to keep writing it because he was contracted to do 2 books. And I will say the ending to The Wizard is really good. I love the battles in the book. But overall, I was not really that interested in what was going on. It was a complete slog for me. So I'm giving it an 8 out of 10, maybe 8.5 if I'm being charitable. But I was really disappointed by book 2. And it took me so long to read it. I was taking days at a time to not even read it. And it's only a 470-something page book. But being that it's Gene Wolfe, the writing style is very complex and deep, and every sentence is basically an entire paragraph's worth of content or material. So if you're a fan of Book the New Sun, I think this is definitely worth reading. I loved it, but book 2 is definitely one that I really felt like was a slog, and I didn't enjoy it, as I've said. But I will say that the world building was fantastic. He takes a lot of Norse ideas and puts it into the story. We have the many different layers of the world. We have many different god-like creatures that come in and out. I really love the 2 sort of fairies that we have, or the 2 minions who are sort of like demons. I thought they were really fun. I really loved Org, who is this really big ogre character that keeps chewing and eating up all of Abel's friends, because he doesn't expressly tell him, don't eat my friends, and so he just does it. That's in his nature. And I really love the exploration around that character, but I was really disappointed by just how little they were sort of in the story, because there's so much dialogue in these 2 books that are all about what it means to be a knight and sort of the expectations of being a knight and all this different stuff. And I was just like, okay, let's move on. But considering that's how Gene Wolfe wrote it, it may work for other people. It didn't work for me. I didn't care that much. But I really hope anyone who picks this up will comment and sort of give me their idea or their perspective, because I was very I went in with very high expectations, and book 1 met those expectations, but book 2 did not. And that's why I never did a singular review for book 1, because I didn't feel like I had the entire story yet, and I wanted to see how it ended. I read it back to back. I didn't take any breaks between the 2, and that's why it took me so long, why I haven't done a single video in a long time. But I really, really enjoyed it. I love the journey. And I'm trying to think anything else. I don't think I will go into spoilers, because I've kind of given all my thoughts already, but I'm really excited to read The Fifth Head of Cerberus. That's the next one I think I'll read. I don't have it yet, but I do have Book the Long Sun, which I want to read. I have those already, all 4 books, and sort of the same editions that are on this, where it has, 2 a book. But I really want to do a reread of Book the New Sun, because I just love that story so much. And it's not as long as a lot of fantasy books, and since it is my favorite, I want to reread it. I just want to. I don't think it will take me much time. I will begin reading multiple books at a time again, like I used to, because I'm not really reading books as fast as I used to, because I have a full-time job now as a teacher, and I'm loving it. It's amazing, but I'm just really tired at the end of the day because of how much focus that it requires. But and energy as well, because this is elementary, so it's really hard for me, someone who's of low energy, to be keeping up with these kids. But I really am excited to move and sort of have more time to myself to read and watch movies and do all that. So I think this move would be good. I'm also in the midst of a move, so you can see I'm in my apartment now, but I am moving back home. So once I do that, I think I'll be having a lot more focus to be able to read again. And hopefully not as many distractions. But it's been Snowmageddon here, so I've been hunkered down in this apartment, been reading a lot, watching a lot of movies, which has been nice again. So yeah, let me know what you think of this review, and thank you so much for watching, and please have a great rest of the day.